Driving is no pleasure in this sort of thing. I suppose all the noise and strains and frustration are necessary. After all, I'm in the mechanical age, and so I'd better put up with it. And it has its advantages. Shut up, you neurotic ass. It has its advantages, for it makes the motor cars and the comforts of life, but the noisier the world grows in the cities, the more precious I find the places of tranquility and permanence. This island isn't big and it's very overcrowded. Muddle like this makes me long for bird song instead of traffic roar, flower smells instead of fumes. In the end, this road will take me to Cornwall, to North Cornwall, where I was brought up as a child, and to a part of it which has been kept in its natural state, not by the government or by any private landlord, but by the National Trust. Cornwall to be seen at walking pace. Now there's time to breathe and see and smell and hear. Spring is the best time in Cornwall, when the hedges and turf are like acres of wild rock garden, when sea pinks colour the cliffs for miles. There's always a breeze on these heights. It's only in the lanes, in between the high hedges, that you can get out of it. And even then, there is wind enough to blow a gate shut. I remember the consternation there was when this piece of headland, Pentyre, came up for sale. But local people subscribed to buy it and gave it to the National Trust, so that it is now an open space forever, for all to enjoy. But it's not a useless open space. The National Trust owns Pentyre Farm, the old farmhouse on the left, and the newer house, in simple storm-resisting style, is already like the farm buildings, spotted with orange and silver lichens, which grow where winds are salt. Farmers, with the good Cornish name of Olds, have looked after this land for generations and made a living from it. Their pasture and yards are sheltered from the great Atlantic gales. They are snug in a hollow of this wind-swept peninsula. Cornish father and Cornish son. The edges of their farm are wild and wonderful, with the Atlantic Ocean tumbling all around them. Huge cliffs have hidden paths to secret caves, once only known to smugglers, and where only seagulls dare to go today. And only seals can safely bask in these merciless waters, which are angry-looking even in the calmest weather. The rocks are blue with mussels. The rock pools hold limpets and crabs, and their shattered remains strew the cliffs, dropped from the beaks of seabirds. Birds like the oyster catcher, sailing there from peak to peak among the topmost pinnacles of Pentyre Point. Mole Island and the Rumps. Here, on this outermost edge of the Celtic kingdom of Cornwall, it is thought that some race, earlier than the Celts, made a last stand before being driven backwards into the sea, for there are traces of forts here and of pit dwellings. After such ancient and wild grandeur, I like a sudden and complete contrast of scene. Let's choose Claydon, near Aylesbury. The National Trust has owned it for less than 5 years. The Verneys, who gave it to them, have lived in this mild and pastoral part of Buckinghamshire for 500 years. The house you see was built by the second Lord Verney in 1752, plain outside, but immensely luxurious within. Lord Verney was a genial spendthrift and a man of taste. He employed his friend Sir Thomas Robinson, a Yorkshire landowner turned architect, to design this spacious saloon, with a ceiling by the famous stuccoist Joseph Rose. But wait, see the contrast these chaste grey walls provide with the room which adjoins it and which we are going to enter now. Here Lord Verney employed a decorator named Lightfoot, about whom nothing is known except that he was thought to be a little mad. The walls have been coloured that Neapolitan yellow to show up the marvellous white carving with which Lightfoot decorated chimney-piece, niches and door frame. He called it all his naturalistic style, and the sober architect Robinson didn't like it at all, though I must say I like it myself very much. The great staircase at Claydon is one of the wonders of the late Georgian age. It goes up 3 stories, the whole height of the house. Here, Lightfoot was again given a chance and showed his skill in joinery. The mahogany stairs are inlaid with rosewood, satinwood, ebony and ivory. Not just underneath and at the sides, but on the treads of the stairs as well. And up those stairs, a century ago, Florence Nightingale must have walked, for her sister married one of the Verneys, and she often came and stayed here. The ironwork has metal ears of corn attached to it. And every time anyone goes up the stairs, the vibration sets the corner shaking right up to the top of the house. And perhaps it's the ghost of Florence Nightingale which makes them shake now. In an upstairs room is the most fantastic of all the wonders Claydon has to show. At this time, 1760, China was all the rage. Chinese patterns, Chinese figures, and things like the pagoda in Kew Gardens. Lord Verney had his own pagoda, carved by Lightfoot in the Chinese room. All this carving is of wood, painted to look like plaster. It's the sort of thing Chippendale used to do to the frames of looking glasses and pictures. It's Chippendale, only more so. And as we pass under this wild extravaganza with its brackets and leaves and little wooden temple bells, we find a mandarin and his wife carved on the ceiling to welcome us to tea. After art, nature. Wicken Fen, Cambridgeshire, which the Trust keeps as a nature reserve. You might think this mere flooded to attract waterfowl and these fringes of reeds growing out of 2 feet of water were dull. Dull until you look at Wicken Fen in detail. A windmill water pump. Once these were all over the fens. Reeds grow out of water, but the sedge you see here grows in swamp. Bushes would invade the sedge if it weren't cut every year. The dense stems, where sedge warblers have precarious nests, are tall, and if left uncut, they rot and form soil which bushes grow on. Before corrugated iron was invented, reeds like these, with their round stems, and the more pliable sedge, were used for thatching. The village post office at Wicken has reeds for the smooth part of its roof, and sedge which bends for the ridges. And here's another Wicken cottage, thatched only with sedge. The swallow-tailed butterfly, flitting about here, once bred naturally in the fens. But modern farming and drainage and various other things did it in, until it was reintroduced to Wicken Fen, which is kept by the Trust in its natural state, and there it thrives. The fen is bright with flowers. In summer, purple loosestrife and the creamy meadowsweet abound, and the reed mace scattering its pollen like powder. A whole area as a nature reserve, a whole area of lilies, lodes and meres and marshes. That's one sort of Trust property. And as a contrast, another Trust property is a whole area of houses, a complete village. Laycock in Wiltshire was once a wool town. In medieval times, the main Bath Road went through it. Then its neighbours, Chippenham and Trowbridge, became more important. But Laycock, under the ownership of the Talbot family, was kept intact. I like touring slowly through the streets, noticing details.